We'll turn now to the principles of design. And these are kind of concepts that deal with the foundation of visual art. That is, we use the elements of art design, like value and color and line, and we arrange them in different ways to get different kinds of images. So there are six propositions that serve as the foundation of visual art. Now, this differs a little bit from your textbook because I kind of keep movement and rhythm together and introduce scale and proportion a little differently. But let's have a look. First one is unity and variety. And these two things have to be balanced with one another. In fact, unity and variety kind of go together. I don't see them as separate things. A unified image is one in which all parts are related to one another in a way that creates a visual order. The opposite of visual unity is disorder. And what makes a unified image and how do separate shapes, values, colors, and textures add up to a whole composition? That's really the problem of unity. There are three ways to achieve unity in a composition, and one is through repetition, two is continuation, and three is proximity and grouping, and we'll look at those three ways. Now, a varied image is one that is unified, but it is also complex enough to command prolonged attention of the viewer. So an image is varied in a way that elements are used in contrast with one another. So think of unity as similarities and variety as dissimilarities. And unity and variety must be used and balanced with one another. An image that is too unified can be visually boring. An image that is too varied can look chaotic. Here's a photograph that is unified. An element is repeated throughout the image in various ways and in various locations. This relates the parts to each other and makes a congruous whole. In this example, you should look for repeating triangles in the negative shape. So we have this large triangle as we look through the negative shape of the piano. We have a smaller triangle here as the arm relates to the bar that holds the lid of the piano up. We have a triangle here. We have a triangle there that's kind of open shape. We have a smaller triangle here. You could even find smaller triangles in the clothing of the figures. So all of this is created by the repetition of shape. So it's unity by repetition. Then we have unity by continuation. And through the alignment of separate elements, something continues. Now, usually this is an edge or a directional movement. Notice that there is a continuation of the edge of the table as it lines up with the arm of the chair. So we look at this white tablecloth here as it overlaps a darker tablecloth. It gives you a very distinct edge, distinct line, and this connects right to the arm of the chair, which gives you this strong horizontal division of the page. Now also, the arms and shoulders of the figure on the right continue on the alignment with the shoulders of the Christ figure. And notice how his hand continues the movement into this other figure, and this connects here. And again, it also moves you horizontally through the page. And this is unity by continuation. It sets up and arranges all these figures so that there's essentially a shape and a horizontal alignment of that shape. Then there's unity by grouping and proximity. And this is a way to make separate elements appear as if they belong together. Essentially, you put these things in close proximity. In this sculpture made of ceramic pieces by Walter McConnell, separate ceramic sculptures are organized into one larger form, and that one larger form is kind of geometric, kind of like this large kind of triangular form. And we know that Caravaggio's painting is unified by proximity, but how is it varied? And we should look for contrast between elements. First, there is a use of high chroma, that is, highly saturated red in the clothes of the figure of Jesus Christ, in contrast with the lower chroma earth tones in the rest of the painting. So high, bright red with browns and oranges and black colors that are very much unsaturated or less chroma. There is a contrast also in light and dark values. So we've got very light values as the light hits the tablecloth or some aspects of the clothing, the cloth, or the face, contrasted with really dark values, cast shadows, the darkness of the room. There is also a contrast of shape between the smaller shapes that are the food on the table and the larger shapes that make up the figures. So we'll look at this image here, photographed by Alexander Rodchenko, and we see we have to ask ourselves, how is it unified and how is it varied? Well, certainly there's a repetition of shape in all of these boats, right? And that's one way to create unity. There's also, interestingly enough, there's grouping at the same time because all these boats are lined up and arranged to kind of create this radial movement around this dock here. So both by grouping and continuation and all of them, all three of them, repetition, grouping, and proximity, you have all of those things happening. Now also, it's varied in a way that the elements are different from one another. So you've got this shape, which is different than this shape, say. You've also got textural differences. The texture of the water here is different than the texture of the dock. So those things make it more complex than it otherwise would be.